Good day, sir, and to my fellow classmates. Today, I'm going to discuss the Unit 4 about a political organization of space. So, a nation is a group of people with common cultural characteristics, whereas a state is an area with defined boundaries that has sovereignty within its borders. Then, a nation-state is a country whose political boundaries correspond with its cultural boundaries. So, if you study familiar land and water shapes, you realize that geological history moves at a much slower pace than a political history. So, we have the political geography. A political geography is the study of the political organization of the planet, a constantly changing collage of countries that once were kingdoms or parts of empires, or perhaps scatterings of independent tribes. And then, through all the changes, however, one truth emerged almost from the beginning of history. Humans have divided their living space into political units or the territories. So, based on the study of the political organization, human systems of the planet, which are constantly in the state of organizing the land to fit the needs of humans. Then, sometimes geopolitics, political geography, is a vital importance and understanding of the world around us. So, the first step, also the understanding of what political geography is. American media often misuses the terms political geography. For example, there are the distinguished full difference between state nations as well as a nation state. Nation state. So, a nation state occurs when the cultural borders of the nation correspond the state borders of the country. So, good examples are the nation states Japan and Denmark. So, there is no perfect example of a nation state because every person in the country would have to be the same ethnicity, speak the same language, and also practice the same religion. A different idea is a nation. A nation is a group of people with common cultural characteristics. They may be linked by ethnicity, language, and religion. Usually, nations are looking within the borders of the country. The earth is divided among just 100 200 countries, so these countries are more correctly termed as a state. States. A state is any area that regulates their own internal and external affairs and a particular piece of land. So, the state has a power to make laws, defend these borders, and enact of policies. So, this power is called sovereignty. States is categorized into three types according to the distribution of power. So we have the unitary system, confederal system, and federal system. First, the unitary system. A unitary system is a kind of government system in which a single power, which is known as the central government, controls the whole government. So in fact, all powers and administrative divisions authorities lies at the central place. Second, the confederal system. A confederal system, weak or loose organization of states, agrees to follow a powerful central government. So, a system of government in which sovereign states delegate power to a central government for specific purposes. And then, a confederal system sets off the other extreme in terms of centralization. Last is the federal system. A federal system or country of government is one in which the different states or provinces of the country have important powers to make their own laws and decisions. So in federal system also political authority is divided between two autonomous sets of governments, one national and the subnational. So both of which operate directly upon the people. Next, the territorial dimensions of politics. Territorial dimensions of politics within, among, and across nations. This is a comparative study examines the dialectical tensions between global and regional interdependence and the fragmentations of humankind into territorial entities. And political authority may remain a territory bound, but borders increasingly are penetrated by pollutants, individuals, non-central governments in search of foreign trade and investment, and also transnational corporations as well as the traditional exchanges of media, trade, and culture. So you see the landscapes and the few lakes and seas, but most physical features of the Earth's surface are not apparent. Instead, the emphasis is on political organization. The nearly 200 nations state that the world is divided into. And then, this modern state system that the map reflects is the product of political territory order with European roots. At the core of the system are the concept of territoriality, sovereignty, and also the nation-state. Next, the concept of territoriality. So, territoriality. Territoriality refers to the monopolization of space by an individual or group. While territories have been defined variously as any defended space, areas of site-specific dominance, or sites of exclusive monopolization of space, so they can be quite fluid and short-term. Next, the government. Government is a reference to the leadership and institutions that make policy decisions for a country. So the concept of territoriality, efforts to control pieces of the Earth's surface of political and social ends, is basic to the study of political geography. And then, according to Robert Sack, human territoriality differs from the instinctual territoriality of animals in that takes many different forms, depending on the social and geographical context. And then the rules of reflect attitudes toward land and territory as defined by the political culture, the collection of political beliefs, values, practices, and institutions that the government is based on. Next is the nature and meaning of boundaries. So, boundaries may be set by negotiation or war with neighbors, which often leaves states open to changes in the future. And then, an international boundary delineates the space of between sovereign states. Within its borders, a single government has complete authority, an authority that cannot be impeded by the other governments. So the border serves to represent the limit, the furthest extent of space over which a government has a sovereignty. We have the two types of boundaries. So, we love boundaries. Boundaries are the foundation of a healthy relationships. They're what help us protect our energy and prioritize our time and wellness. We've talked a lot about them before. The workplace boundaries, boundaries while social distancing, firmly communicating boundaries, and how setting them can transform our relationships. So, here are the two types of boundaries you should be setting. First, the physical boundaries. Physical boundaries is a naturally occurring divide between two areas. And then, rivers, mountain ranges, Oceans, lakes, and deserts are the physical features most commonly used as boundaries. For example, the boundary between Spain and France follows the peaks of the Pyrenees Mountains. So the rivers are common boundaries between states, nations, and smaller political areas. Second is the cultural boundaries. Cultural boundaries, also called the consequent boundaries, and it is the geographical term for the border between two different ethnic, linguistic, and religious groups. While these often fall along a territorial, topographical, or the national boundaries, so they can be almost anywhere. Cultural boundaries are more likely to be shaped by historical forces rather than strictly geographical ones. For example, they carved from the large empire of Austria-Hungary several small ethnically based states, including Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria. So the Balkans illustrate the tendency for mountain ranges, such as the Caucasus, to form a shatter belts or the zones of great cultural complexity containing many small cultural groups who find refuge in the isolation created by rough terrain. So the shatter belts are often areas of cultural tension that may spread to the other areas. So we have the Balkans. This area between the Adriatic and Black Sea has historically diverse ethnicities that were combined into one country called Yugoslavia after World War I. The union lasted until the 1990s when ethnic tensions exploded, leading to the creation of new ethnically or based small states, a process called the Balkanization. So sometimes geometric boundaries are set between the countries. So geometric boundaries are formed by straight lines such as lines of latitude or longitude, or occasionally arcs regardless of the physical and cultural features of the area. And then the Canada and US border along the 49th parallel is an example of a geometric boundary. So that's all. Thank you.